The scariest thing about rabies is that once you get it, there's no cure. And I'll tell you why that is in this video. They will always die. I have never seen a case of rabies where we could turn it around. So once a person has symptoms, they are going to die. There's nothing we can do to save them. So the question is, why can't we come up with something to help people once they have symptoms? The biggest problem with rabies is that once the virus reaches the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, we have no way of getting rid of it. It is very hard to develop a treatment for a virus once it gets to the brain, because the blood-brain barrier is so effective at keeping things out of the brain. You have to be able to cross the blood-brain barrier in order to treat anything in the brain. And the blood-brain barrier is made up of very tight junctions between cells. It doesn't let things in very easily, but also, by the time someone is showing symptoms of rabies, it's too late. The damage is already done. Neurons have already been damaged. They're not going to recover. If we could just slow the replication of the virus down, maybe we could stop the progression of the disease. But we don't have anything that can do that. You know, when we vaccinate people against rabies, we're not killing the virus. We're actually just giving the body the blueprint to make the right antibodies to fight the virus. And so what we're doing is we're preventing the disease from ever happening. But if the disease has started, we don't have anything to offer. And so people ask me all the time, well, why can't we just do a post-exposure prophylaxis or give the vaccine after somebody has been exposed instead of before? And the reason is, again, by the time the symptoms start, it's too late. We have no option. And so that's why it's so important to vaccinate your pets, to keep them vaccinated against rabies, because they can get it too. And if you get bitten by an animal with rabies, you need to seek medical attention immediately. Don't wait. Get that post-exposure prophylaxis. Get the vaccine right away. And most of the time, it will prevent the disease from ever occurring. But once the symptoms start, like I said, it's too late. There's nothing we can do. Now, the other reason that rabies is so scary is that the incubation period is so long. The virus can lie dormant in the body for a long time, months to years, and then all of a sudden start causing clinical signs. And the reason for that is the virus has to travel from the site of the bite to the central nervous system. And it does this by traveling along the peripheral nerves. And the peripheral nerves are really the first line of defense. Those nerves have a lot of immune cells in them that try to stop the virus from getting into the central nervous system. And so the incubation period can be variable depending on how quickly the virus is able to replicate, but also depending on how effectively the immune system is at the site of the bite. And what's really cool is that the immune system does recognize the virus as foreign. It does. MOUNT an immune response at the site of the bite. But eventually, the virus overwhelms the immune system and gets past it, and then heads to the central nervous system. And by the time it gets to the central nervous system, like I said, we have no way of getting rid of it. And so the other scary part about rabies is that it's transmitted by wildlife. Wildlife can have rabies and they can be asymptomatic. They can shed the virus in their saliva, but they don't show any signs of being sick. And so one of the most common animals to have rabies is the raccoon. And raccoons are nocturnal, so you're not going to see them during the day. But if you have a raccoon that comes into your attic, you might find out about it when it leaves, and it is rabies. And you can see in this case, this raccoon had gotten into the attic and scratched the woman, and she didn't even realize it. She didn't feel anything at the time. But of course, afterwards, she got very, very sick and died from her injuries. So if you have an animal in your home that you suspect may have rabies, call your local animal control. Do not try to remove it yourself. Rabies can be transmitted through the air. It can be transmitted through saliva. It can be transmitted through urine. And it can be transmitted through feces. So do not try to remove a wild animal on your own if you suspect it has rabies. Call a professional. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. Please share this video so that more people can learn about the dangers of rabies.